All right, good morning. This is Blanche Eden with Black Trending News Podcast. It's a beautiful day here in New York. Let's get into it. Today I'm going to talk about The Lion King, more specifically, a little bit about the movie, how it was birthed, the cast members, the new one coming out very soon. And I'm going to touch also a little bit on how minority cast members bring in more money for the box office. And my idea as to what it has to do with the new Lion King cast versus the old Lion King cast. So let's go ahead and get started. The original Lion King was introduced to the world on June 24th, 1994. It was released in the US domestically on June 15th, so a little bit before that. The idea was birthed by 3 white men. Let me go over the specifics of that and why I emphasize their race. The idea for The Lion King was conceived in late 1988 during a conversation between Jeffrey Katzenberg, Roy E. Disney, and Peter Schneider on a plane to Europe to promote Oliver and Company, which I believe is another Disney movie that came out in the 90s. And the reason why I emphasize that is because it is a movie that takes place in the Pride Lands of Africa. So this movie was birthed by not black people, it seems. It also says that it was inspired by Shakespeare's Hamlet. And also says here that Katzenberg decided to add elements involving coming age and death and ideas from personal life experiences, such as some of his trials in his bumpy road in politics. Saying about the film, it is a little bit about myself. So this movie, the underlying of this movie is not really to, in my opinion, from what I see, has nothing to really do with what we see on the screen. From what we see it as is almost like an African family, and they're proposed as animals in a jungle. I would have never thought that the idea of Lion King was inspired by Shakespeare's Hamlet or politics or about, a white man. The net worth of all 3 of these men is over $2 billion. So they're very wealthy men. I believe one of them worked on a ton of other Disney movies and they're deep rooted in Disney and they're worth a lot of money. They're very wealthy people. So what we see on the screen and behind the Lion King movie are 2 different things. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, just stating some facts that I didn't know. Again, my podcast is about learning new things and sharing that with people who listen to it. All right, so moving on to my next idea here. So the Lion King takes place in the Pride Lands of Africa. That is what is described where the movie takes place. It's not a specific country, so I guess it's just a fictional area in the jungle of Africa. It could be anywhere. The main character is young Simba, who in the original Lion King was played by 2 young white men. And the older Simba was played by a black young man. So I guess they needed a Simba with a little more bass in his voice. So that kind of squashes the whole Black Ariel Little Mermaid thing, because obviously Disney in the past has made, what we would think would be a black character, a white voiceover, and vice versa. So this is not anything new for Disney. They've done it before. Again, when we were younger and we watched Lion King, I'm sure most of us didn't care that Simba was white or black. I didn't even care. I didn't care what his race was. So another reason to just kind of overlook this whole, race thing with the new movie coming out for The Little Mermaid. I believe that's going to be starting in production in 2020. So that's good. I'm looking forward to that next year. The original Lion King, what I found interesting, though, because I am talking about race today, because I noticed a difference in the cast from 1994 to 2019. There is a little slight difference. I just want to talk about that a little bit. The original cast, there's 14 main characters. 6 out of 14 of them were black in the original cast. Everybody else was white, including the main character, Simba. I believe the star is James Earl Jones, Mufasa, who was the father. But his role in the movie is limited because he dies literally probably within 30 minutes of the movie. So he doesn't say very much, but he does play a very big role, right? So that's good. But not even half of the cast, almost half of the cast was Black. Now, fast forward to 2019, 11 out of 14 main characters are Black. And most of us know who those people are. When the original Lion King came out, there wasn't a lot of knowledge of who they were because of social media. Now we know very much who these people are. So let's go over the new cast, because you can look up the old cast anytime. The new cast, and I'm just going to go over a few of them that we know. Donald Glover, Beyonce, Florence Kasumba, I hope I'm saying her name right, Alfre Woodard, J.D. McCrary. She plays Simba, one of the Simbas, the younger Simba. James Earl Jones is still in this one. Keegan Michael Key, John Caney, Eric Andre. Those are the Black cast members. Seth Rogen, John Oliver, Billy Eichner, I think I'm saying that right, and Amy Sedaris. Those are the white cast members. Not very many of them. So, of course, I'm thinking always on both sides of the fence. That's me. Sometimes 4 sides of the fence. I'm always thinking very diversely. Like, why the increase in Black characters, not only in The Lion King, but again in The Little Mermaid. So I got to thinking, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love that there is diversity happening. I want to believe that is for the culture, for the Black culture. And we worked hard to earn those roles, because I believe that we have. The people that are playing these roles are well-known actors in the public light. They're talented, they're loved, and they're going to sell out shows, So this is a good business move, and people are going to enjoy it because they love the people that are playing the roles. So yes, I get it. But there's many different sides, right? And I like to always look at all different sides of things. So I found this study here that took place in 2012 and 2013. There's just not a lot of information on minority casts and how they make more money for the box office. But I did find one by Helena Horton, and this is for the Mirror media outlet in the UK, it looks like. This article came out in 2015, and I'm just going to touch on it a little bit from here. Just some things that stood out to me. It says the Hollywood Diversity Report examined the top 200 theatrical film releases in 2012 and 2013 in all broadcast, cable, and digital television programs during the same period. They found some interesting results. Films with diverse casts make more money. Now, even though this is interesting, it's kind of like common sense, because me and my family, we're Black and we go to the movies at least 3 or 4 times a month. So just imagine how many other families of color. When I go to the movies, I see all kinds of people at the movies. So it's not just white people going to the movies. There was a time when Black people weren't in movies, but Black people still went to go see movies. We want to be entertained as well. We want to watch movies. We enjoy movies and so forth. So there should be all different kinds of people on the screen, so that there's an even bigger connection between the viewer and the movie or the show or whatever. Minorities are underrepresented on the screen. This is a fact. It's always been that way. So why the change? It says here over half, 51% of frequent moviegoers are ethnic minorities. Perhaps that's why films which have diverse casts outperform their less diverse competitors. The average figure for these more representative films was $130.5 million compared to $50.7 million for films which were 90% white. So it's a numbers game as well as other things. It's not just let's diversify this and let's get more Black people on the screen. I mean, a huge part of me wishes it was just that, but if it was that, it would have been done to be in the beginning. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have to fight for that. But nonetheless, it's happening and I'm happy. I just want to shed some light on some other parts of it and what contributes to that. And that it's all, you know, a whole circle. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, it's not just one reason. It doesn't even matter. It's just, I'm just shedding some light on a different perspective. It says here, ethnic minorities make up 2 in 5 of the population. I think it's more than that, but that's what it says here. But took only 1 in 5 lead roles. But at the time this was written, it says most U.S. movie studios aren't taking advantage of Black and Hispanic actors. So it's still moving a little bit slow, it seems. And not only is this in the actors' world, this is also in film directors. So film directors are behind the scenes. So if we don't have a lot of Black or minority film directors, then are we going to have a lot of Black and minority actors? Less than likely we are. Not to say that we can't, because there's a lot of film directors that are white and we still have Black movies. So it definitely happens. But like I said, there's a reason for everything. And there's reasons for everything. It says here, nearly 1/5 of all films depict no African American or Black speaking characters at all. 1 in 5 films. Now, minorities are increasingly being given lead roles in films, you know, over the years. And again, fast forward to 2019, we can see that it's definitely taking a full throttle, but we still have a long way to go. So this is obviously, you know, this has a lot to do with money as well. Like I said in my other podcasts, we have value and we sell out shows. Despite the industry being a very white, male-dominated industry. I mean, if white females are getting paid less than the males, then the Black females are probably getting paid even lesser. Which leads me into what actors get paid. So Black Panther was a big movie that came out. Some things I noticed about the Black Panther movie. The highest paid actor in the Black Panther movie was Chadwick Boseman, who made $3 million, and Michael B. Jordan, being the second, made $1 million. Yeah, so compared to... Now, this movie did exceptionally well. And I think I'm pretty sure they knew that it was going to do exceptionally well. If you look at the numbers of the Black Panther movie, this movie wasn't released into as many theaters as, for example, the Star Wars movie, Jurassic World, the Avengers. It wasn't released into as many movies. It was actually only released into 4,020 movie theaters versus the others were released into about 4,400, 4,300, 4,200. So even with that, it's still domestically grossed over $700 million versus the Avengers Infinity War movie only grossed $678+ million. So just imagine if it was in as many theaters, which I feel a certain way about that. You know what I mean? Like, I guess movie theaters have a right, I guess they're personally owned. They have a right to say, you know what, we don't want this movie in our theater. I just think it's kind of screwed up that it didn't have as many opportunities to gross because it wasn't put in as many potential theaters as it could be, but the white movies with white characters were. But nonetheless, they still sold out more than the Avengers Infinity War, which brings me to, the Iron Man character was paid $50 million versus the main character in the Black Panther was only paid $3 million. $50 million. Scarlett Johansson's character was paid $10 million. I mean, the main character in Black Panther didn't even get half of what she got. And she doesn't even have she has a role in that movie, but all I have to say is when I saw what those actors got paid in the Infinity War Avengers movie, I was really shocked to see the difference, being that they're both Marvel. They both had an amazing turnout. I mean, yeah, one is older than the other, but this is a numbers game. So why are we, talking about longevity and seniority? It's not about that. It's about the numbers. And I just think that it really sucked that it couldn't go into 4,400 theaters, only about 4,000. So just imagine if it was able to be released. And I mean, did they do that on purpose? What's up with that shit? What's up with that? Nonetheless, Star Wars The Force Awakens did over $936 million. They did. I mean, that movie is really good. And so was Black Panther. I mean, like I said, I think that Black Panther could have really did just as well as that Star Wars movie if they were put into the other 400 theaters. I don't think that's fair. And we all have a pretty good idea of why it wasn't put into as many theaters as the other, white casted movies were. Some top black movies: Malcolm X, Coming to America, The Best Man, Love and Basketball, Black Panther, and The Color Purple. There's a lot of benefit in having a black cast, because most of the black movies that I see, they hit home with people of color. I find that sometimes with white movies, they're very fictional. They don't really hit home. They're more, fantasy-like. And Black Panther was along those lines. Like, it was more fantasy-like. So is that why it did, so well? Who knows, It was a good movie nonetheless, though. I just didn't like how they didn't get paid as much. But most people would say they got paid. All right. Okay, so another thing I want to point out here are some other, minority-like movies that Disney has put out over the time. The Pocahontas movie, one of my favorite movies. Beautiful movie. Out of 15 main characters, 5 of them were of Aboriginal descent. Everybody else was white. Disney's first black princess, Tiara, from the Princess and the Frog movie, who is of darker complexion. I mean, great movie. She was played by 2 characters. One was Anika Nani Rose. She was the singing part of that character. She sang the songs. And to me, she looked more like the cartoon, more of a darker complexion. And then there was the speaking role of Tiana, who was Elizabeth Dampier, who was very, very fair-skinned, but nonetheless a black actress. And that cast, so I counted here 48 leading and supporting actors and actresses in that movie. So out of those 48 people having small roles, large roles, 19 of them were black. So not even half of them were black. But most of the main cast was black. So there we go. So what I'm saying is that there's not just one reason to why they're casting black people. I mean, they know that we sell out shows. Shoot, we are going to draw in sales. Look what the Black Panther did. It did awesome. Okay, so I also looked up, top black movies, top white movies, and top movies. And when I looked at top movies, the number one out of all 40, the number one top black movie was Boys in the Hood. You make what you want to make out of that. And then I said, what's, the top white movies? And they showed me movies with titles with the word white in it. So there are no top white movies. So then I skipped over to the next thing and I said, all right, top movies, top best movies of all time. And again, it pulled up 40 movies. And shockingly enough, none of them, see, I shouldn't be shocked. None of them were a black movie. Like, out of all 40 movies, top movies, and these are all movies that took place up until 2005. So this is not, this is not old stuff. This is, a little more recent stuff, sort of. And Not one black movie was in that top 40 of best movies of all time. We have our own section of movies. So there's obviously no black movies in the top 40 movies of all time, according to what I researched, which is sad. More sad news about that is that there was, you see the cover of the movie where the main characters are one black actor out of all 40 of those movies. This is a time when black people were acting. So they were black movies and there were black actors. So it's not like we didn't exist. But there was only one black male actor, Morgan Freeman, and he was in 2 out of 40 of the movies. He starred in 2 out of 40 of the movies. There weren't any other black main characters out of all 40 of those movies, and no black movies in the top 40 movies of all time. Yeah. So that was, we have our own section. I'm not surprised. We even have our own section with movies. So segregation still exists. And that's it. Segregation still exists. That is an example of segregation. I don't care where you want to, argue. We have our own section of movies. There is no white section. It's just black movies and best movies. And the fact that we really don't hold a place in those top 40 best movies, like we haven't, made an impact on the world with our movies. I guess we haven't, according to the top 40. But we go to the movies like everybody else, and we make great movies like everybody else, but we're just not included in that. So, please take all of these things into account. Don't forget about these things. Not in the sense to be depressed or sad about it, but to please keep it in mind. So when you are creating, if you are a creator, please keep these things in mind. When you see, movies that you really like, go support it. Don't wait for it to come out on Netflix or whatever, or on bootleg, Showbox. Don't do that. Go out and support it so that we can be in the top 40. I don't know why we're not in the top 40. I don't like to assume anything, but I will call it a form of segregation. That's what it just looks like. These are movies that run up to 2005, and there have been some good movies. Black people have a top 40, so why isn't one of those movies? Or another thing I want to point out about The Lion King coming out on July 19th is the budget for this movie. This is a massive, massive production. $250 million. Where the hell does that come from? That's a big budget. The original Lion King movie's budget was $45 million. That is nowhere near $250 million. Even in the difference of years, 1994 to 2019, that's still a huge difference. And most of it's probably going to the cast. The original Lion King has made almost $1 billion back in box office. That includes, VHS tapes, movie sales, music soundtrack, you name it. They've also come out with Lion King 2, Lion King 1.5. So Lion King has, rolled in the money. But a movie like The Jungle Book, for example, that was budgeted at $177 million. And I don't think it did as well. I don't think it's as popular as The Lion King. So I'm curious to see how well this movie's going to do. I think it's going to do exceptionally well because of the cast. I do want to point out as well that in the original Lion King, the top 3 characters, surprisingly, were Mufasa, Scar, and Timon. They were the stars, according to, my little search here. Mufasa, Scar, and Timon. They were the stars of this movie. One was a black man, the other 2 were white men. But in this casting, they have it set up, the order is set up a bit differently. And that's okay. Again, I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just stating things that some people may not notice, that I didn't notice. And I'm learning, right? So now in this, the top 3 are Simba, Nala, and Mufasa. And they're all black. So I like this. I like it. I mean, the top 5 characters are black. And it wasn't like that in 1994. So I want to say we've come a long way in some areas of, the movie industry for black people. But there is always room for improvement. Like the fact that we have a segregated section for black movies and there's not any black movies in the top 40 movies of all time. And these movies are up until 2005, where black people were very relevant. I mean, there was a time where there was nothing but black movies coming out. And there's not one in that top 40. So, yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's make that a conversation. But The Lion King 2019 is going to be exciting, and so is The Little Mermaid. And again, this is not new. Like, people are acting so crazy. They've made Simba was a white boy. So what's the problem? Yeah. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. One last thing here. This movie is not Disney's most expensive movie. It looks like the Avengers movie, which I talked about earlier, cost Disney $350 million. Well, they paid the cast a lot more money. That's what it is. I hope everybody sees this. The budgets definitely correlate with how much they pay everybody. So, no, I don't feel bad for Disney. I don't feel bad. It's all about what you're paying your cast members. That's where most of the money goes to, I think. I could be wrong. Again, drop it in the comments if I'm wrong. Let me know. Tell me off, right? Pirates of the Caribbean had a $300 million budget. That was a big cast. They make so much money back, though. I am excited to see how much this cast is getting paid. It hasn't been released yet. I haven't found it yet, but I think it will be released after the movie spends some time out there. And I will be finding out and seeing how much each person got paid. With that type of budget, $250 million, they better have paid my people. Have a good day.